Hi again, grade 9s. Okay, so right now what we're going to take a look at is what's called properties of chords in a circle. Now, to understand a chord, it's basically this. A chord is a line segment that joins 2 points on a circle. So here's a circle, here's my center of the circle, and if I have a chord, like I said, a chord goes through 2 points on a circle. Okay, so if I have a line from here to here, so that's going through 2 points on a circle. It's going through this point and this point, so through 2 points on a circle. So a chord can also go through the center of the circle. It doesn't have to go through the center of the circle, but it can. And we know that a chord through the center of a circle, that's called the diameter. Okay. Now we can also have another chord, let's say from this point here, let's make the line, to this point here, that's a chord as well. Now they don't have to be perfectly horizontal lines. They can be somewhat vertical lines as well. They could be lines that are angled as long as they go through 2 points on a circle. So each of these lines are going through 2 points on a circle. Okay, so once we understand that, there's certain properties that we need to understand that are super important here. So let's take a look at this first one. Okay, and all these properties are very similar to each other. So chord property number one, a perpendicular line from the center of the circle to a chord divides the chord into two equal parts. So let's say I'm going to put a chord in this circle. And let's say this is my chord. So there's my chord right there. Okay, and here's the center of my circle. And for our purposes, I'm going to call this point O. Okay, and so now a chord from the center of the circle, okay, to here, okay, or a line from the center of the circle to the chord divides my chord into two equal parts. Okay, that's it. Okay, so now if I label that point O, and I'm going to label this point A and this point B. We'll call this point here, we'll call that point C. So now I've got a line segment AC and CB. Now this line from the center of the circle divides this chord into two equal parts. So then we say that AC is equal to CB because it divides it into two equal parts. And what's also important to understand is that this angle here is 90 degrees. And then this angle on the other side is also 90 degrees because this line from the center of the circle divides the chord into two and it's perpendicular. Now, understanding that idea leads us to the next part, okay? Chord property number two. When a perpendicular line divides the chord into two equal parts, then that line must pass through the center of the circle. Okay, so basically, all we're saying is if we have a chord, again, I'll put the chord like this time. So here's my chord. Well, I'm going to get a different line. Let's get slightly angled. Okay, so here's my chord. So it goes through 2 points on the circle. Now, here is my center of the circle. Okay, and if I have a line that goes from the center of the circle, and if it divides the chord into two equal parts, then that line must go through the center of the circle. That's all it's saying. And if it divides it into two equal parts and it comes from the center, then we know it is perpendicular, it's 90 degrees. That's all it's saying. Okay, so this line that divides a chord into two must go through the center of the circle. Okay, so same thing up here. Okay, so I had this line coming from point O, which is the center of the circle, divided this chord into two. Well, this line came from the center of the circle. That is it. That's super easy to understand. Okay, now let's take a look at the third property. It says that a line that joins the center of a circle and the midpoint of a chord is perpendicular to the chord. So once again, very similar to the last thing that we just did. So I'm going to put a chord up here, okay? And let's say this is my chord, okay? So here's my chord, okay? So all this is saying that a line that joins the center of a circle, so here's the center of the circle, and I'm going to go through the center of the circle, okay? And actually that doesn't quite exactly look straight, does it? So make another line here. That looks a little better. Okay, so a line that joins the center of the circle and the midpoint of a chord is perpendicular. That's it. That's all this is saying. So here is this line. It's coming from the midpoint, and it goes to our midpoint of the circle, or the center of the circle. And if it goes to the midpoint of the chord, then it is perpendicular. That's it. That's all it's saying. Now, however, if, and I'll do this in a different color, let's say I'll do it in a green. Okay, if I have a line from here, from the center, this green line, well, this green line doesn't go to the midpoint, then it's not perpendicular. Okay, so what it's saying, if a line goes from the center of the circle to the midpoint of the chord, then it's perpendicular. That's all it's saying. Okay, so that's the lesson for today, just understanding those three chord properties. So I'll go back, okay? Actually, let's just review. First of all, a chord is a line segment that joins 2 points on a circle, okay? And each of these are examples of chords, okay? And a chord can also go through the center of the circle. It doesn't have to, but it can. Now, just review again, okay, that the line from the center of the circle, when it goes through the chord, through the midpoint of the chord, it divides the chord into 2 equal parts, okay? And when also, the other property says that if that chord that comes from, that goes through the center of the chord and it's perpendicular, well, that line must go through the center, okay? And then finally, the other point was that that the line from the center of the circle to the midpoint of the chord makes the 2 lines perpendicular to each other, so we have angles of 90 degrees. Now, we can use those chord properties to solve problems, and that we'll look at in the next video. So this is all we're going to do for today. Thank you for paying attention.